A famous wrestler stood in the center of a crowded dojo and pointed directly at Bruce Lee, his finger jabbed through the air like a weapon. You're just a movie star. I'll break you like a twig." The room went silent. Every conversation stopped. Every movement froze. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Bruce Lee stood perfectly still, hands relaxed at his sides, his expression calm, almost amused. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't puff out his chest. He didn't need to. He just smiled, that quiet, knowing smile, and said one thing, 7 seconds. "That's all I need." The wrestler laughed, loud, mocking, confident. The kind of laugh that comes from a man who's never been humbled. But the people in that room, they weren't laughing. They knew who Bruce Lee was. They knew what he was capable of. And they knew that in the next few minutes, someone's world was about to shatter. What happened next became legendary, not because of violence, not because of flashy moves or camera tricks, but because in just 7 seconds, Bruce Lee taught a lesson that wrestler would carry for the rest of his life. And the wrestler? He spent decades afterward telling people the same thing: never underestimate a quiet man. Before we continue, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I want to see how far this story reaches. And if you've ever been underestimated, if someone ever looked at you and thought you weren't enough, type NVIRAGIN in the comments. Let's go. It was 1972. A private martial arts demonstration was being held in Los Angeles, in a modest dojo tucked away from the Hollywood spotlight. Bruce Lee had been invited to show his philosophy, Jeet Kune Do, to a small, select group of martial artists, athletes, and curious minds. This wasn't a public show. No press. Just real practitioners looking to learn from the legend himself. Among them was Big Jack Harrison, a 6'5", 280-pound professional wrestler known across the country for his brutality in the ring. Jack had a reputation. He wasn't just big. He was mean, ruthless. The kind of fighter who didn't just win matches. He dominated them, humiliated opponents, made examples out of anyone who dared challenge him. Jack had heard about Bruce Lee. Of course he had. Everyone had. But he didn't believe the hype. Movie tricks. He'd told his friends over drinks the night before. Wire work. Camera angles. Stunt doubles. That's all it is. He walked into the dojo that afternoon in his leather jacket, flanked by 2 bodyguards who looked like they could break doors with their foreheads. Jack chewed gum like he owned the place, his boots heavy on the wooden floor, his presence demanding attention. People stepped aside as he walked through. Bruce Lee was in the corner stretching, calm, focused, centered. By comparison, he looked small, 5'7", maybe 140 pounds soaking wet. Jack looked at him and laughed out loud. "That's the guy everyone's afraid of." One of his bodyguards snickered. A few people in the room shifted uncomfortably, but no one said anything. Bruce didn't even look up. He continued stretching, breathing slowly, as if he were the only person in the room. The demonstration began. Bruce stood in the center of the dojo, speaking with quiet authority, explaining the core of Jeet Kune Do, his personal martial arts philosophy. "Be like water," he said, his voice steady and clear. "Adapt. Flow. Don't resist force, redirect it. Strike only when necessary, and when you do, strike with precision." He demonstrated a few movements. Simple, efficient. No wasted motion. The room watched in silence, captivated, but Jack, he wasn't impressed. He leaned back against the wall, arms crossed, smirking, and then he interrupted. Yeah, sounds real deep, Bruce. Very poetic." The room tensed. People glanced nervously between Jack and Bruce. Bruce stopped mid-sentence and turned slowly, his expression unreadable. Jack continued, louder now, playing to the crowd. "But let's be honest here, in a real fight, none of that flowery stuff matters. Size wins, strength wins, power wins." He pushed off the wall and walked toward the center, his heavy boots echoing. "And you?" He looked Bruce up and down. "You'd get crushed. No offense." The room was dead silent now. Bruce studied him for a moment, then nodded thoughtfully. "You think so?" Jack grinned. "I know so." Bruce's eyes narrowed slightly, but his voice remained calm. "Then let's test it." Jack blinked. "What, like a sparring match?" "You serious?" "No sparring," Bruce said. "A real challenge. You try to hold me down. If you can keep me pinned for 7 seconds, you win." Jack's grin widened. This was too easy. 7 seconds. "I'll have you tapping in 3. The crowd murmured. Some thought Bruce was being reckless. Others knew better. They'd seen that look in his eyes before. One of Jack's friends, a stocky guy with a buzz cut, stepped forward. Wait, what does the winner get?" Bruce thought for a moment, his hands resting calmly at his sides. "Respect," he said simply. "That's all." Jack laughed, a loud, booming laugh that filled the room. I don't need respect from a guy half my size, but sure, let's make it interesting. He cracked his knuckles and rolled his massive shoulders. When I win, you admit on camera that size and strength beat speed every time. Deal. Bruce's eyes narrowed, but his voice stayed calm, almost soft. And when I win, he paused, letting the weight of his words settle. You spend 1 month training under me. Silently, humbly, with no complaints. The room went quiet. Jack paused. He wasn't expecting that for a moment. Doubt flickered across his face, but then his ego kicked back in. He shrugged. Deal. Let's do this. They shook hands. Jack's grip was crushing. Bruce's was firm but relaxed. The stage was set. Before we continue, where do you think this is going? Comment bar UC or JSK. Who do you think had the advantage here? And if you've ever seen someone underestimate the quiet ones, type Q8 power in the comments. Let's go. They cleared the center of the dojo. Students and spectators pushed back against the walls, forming a wide circle around the two men. Heavy training mats were laid down across the wooden floor, thick, padded, ready to absorb impact. The atmosphere was electric. You could feel the tension vibrating through the room. Bruce removed his shirt slowly, folding it carefully and placing it to the side. His body was lean, but every muscle was defined like carved stone, not bulky but precise. Functional. Built for speed and explosion. Jack, on the other hand, looked like a mountain. He cracked his knuckles loudly, one by one, the sound echoing through the silent dojo. He rolled his massive shoulders, his neck, loosening up like a predator preparing to pounce. Don't worry, Bruce, he said with a cocky grin. I'll go easy on ya. Wouldn't want to hurt a movie star. A few nervous chuckles rippled through the crowd. Bruce said nothing. He simply stood in the center of the mat, perfectly still, hands relaxed at his sides, his breathing slow and controlled. His eyes were calm, focused, almost meditative. Whenever you're ready, he said softly. Jack's grin widened, and then he charged. Jack lunged forward like a grizzly bear, arms wide, trying to trap Bruce in a crushing bear hug. His sheer size made the floor shake slightly as he moved. But Bruce wasn't there. In a blur of motion so fast some people barely saw it, Bruce sidestepped to the left. Jack's massive arms closed around nothing but empty air. His momentum carried him forward, and he stumbled slightly, catching himself before he fell. The crowd gasped. Jack spun around, his face flushed with embarrassment and anger. Lucky dodge, he muttered, shaking it off. He reset, planting his feet more carefully this time. Then he tried again, faster, more aggressive, closing the distance with alarming speed for a man his size. Bruce moved like water, smooth, effortless, untouchable. Jack swung a massive arm, missed. He reached out to grab, missed again. He dove forward, trying to tackle Bruce to the ground, and missed completely, his hands grasping at air. Each time, Bruce was already gone, repositioned, perfectly balanced, watching. Jack's breathing got heavier. Sweat began forming on his brow. His face turned red, part exertion, part frustration. Stop running, he shouted. Bruce's voice was calm, almost gentle. I'm not running. You're just too slow to catch me. That stung, deep. Jack roared, a guttural, primal sound that came from somewhere deep in his chest. He charged again, this time with everything he had. No technique, no strategy, just raw, animalistic aggression, all 280 pounds of muscle and fury launching forward like a freight train. And this time, Bruce didn't move away. He moved in. In one fluid, impossibly fast motion, Bruce stepped to the side at the last possible second, using Jack's own momentum against him. He grabbed Jack's wrist mid-lunge, twisted it sharply, and pivoted his body. Jack's eyes went wide. Before he even understood what was happening, Bruce had redirected all that force, swept Jack's legs, and in less than 2 seconds, Jack was face down on the mat. His arm locked behind his back, his chest pinned, his face pressed against the canvas, completely immobilized. Bruce's knee was pressed lightly but firmly into Jack's spine. His grip on Jack's wrist was like a steel trap, not violent, not aggressive, but absolutely unbreakable. Bruce leaned in close and whispered, just loud enough for Jack to hear, 7 seconds starts now. Jack tried to push up. His muscles bulged. His face turned bright red. Veins popped out on his neck and forehead. He grunted, strained, used every ounce of strength he had. But Bruce's grip didn't budge. It was effortless, calm, unshakable. 1 second. Jack tried to twist his body, roll to the side. Nothing. 2 seconds. He thrashed, kicked his legs, still nothing. 3 seconds. Panic started to set in. This wasn't supposed to happen. 4 seconds. Jack's breath came in short, desperate gasps. Let go. 5 seconds. His voice cracked. 6 seconds.
I give up. I give up.
7. Bruce released him immediately. He stood up, calm and composed, not even breathing hard. Jack collapsed onto the mat, gasping for air. His chest heaving, his pride shattered into 1,000 pieces. The room was dead silent. No one moved. No one spoke. And then someone clapped. Slow. Deliberate. Then another person joined in. Then another. And suddenly the whole room erupted into applause. Not mocking, not cruel, but respectful, reverent. They had just witnessed something extraordinary. Type League MD in the comments if you think Bruce Lee was on another level. And tell me, have you ever seen someone's ego get checked in real time? Let me know below. Jack lay on the mat, chest heaving violently, staring up at the ceiling. His arms were sprawled out beside him. His legs felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds each. He couldn't move. Not because Bruce was still holding him down, but because the weight of humiliation was crushing him from the inside. He couldn't believe it. He'd been destroyed. Not beaten. Not defeated. Destroyed. And not by brute force. Not by size or strength or any of the things he'd built his entire identity around. But by precision, by timing, by control, by everything he'd dismissed as flowery nonsense. Just minutes ago, the applause around him felt distant, muffled, like he was underwater. His face burned with shame. Bruce Lee stood above him, completely calm, not even winded. And then Bruce did something Jack didn't expect. He extended his hand. Jack stared at it for a long moment, his mind racing. Part of him wanted to ignore it, to get up on his own, to salvage whatever dignity he had left. But another part of him, the part that was starting to wake up, knew that refusing that hand would be the biggest mistake of his life. Slowly, Jack reached up and took it. Bruce's grip was firm but gentle. He pulled Jack to his feet with surprising ease. For a moment, they stood face to face. Jack towered over Bruce physically, but in every other way, he felt small. Bruce looked him in the eyes, not with mockery, not with judgment, but with something Jack hadn't expected. Compassion. "You're strong," Bruce said quietly, just loud enough for Jack to hear. "Very strong. That's not the problem." Jack swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Then what is?" Bruce's voice was calm, almost gentle. "Strength without discipline is just noise. Power without control is a liability. You gave me everything I needed to beat you." Jack's brow furrowed. "What do you mean? You charged in blind. You relied on force. You expected your size to intimidate me, to overwhelm me." Bruce paused, letting the words sink in. "But I don't fight against your strength. I use it. You gave me your momentum, your aggression, your imbalance. All I had to do was redirect it." Jack stood there processing his ego crumbling piece by piece. For the first time in years, maybe in his entire life, he felt truly humbled. Not embarrassed. Not angry. Just humbled. "I don't understand," Jack said, his voice quieter now, almost vulnerable. "How did you move so fast? How did you make it look so easy?" Bruce smiled slightly. "Because I wasn't trying to prove anything. I wasn't fighting to win. I was simply responding to what you gave me." He placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. A small gesture, but one that carried weight. When you fight with ego, you fight against yourself. When you fight with clarity, you fight with the universe. Jack looked down, his hands trembling slightly. He'd never felt anything like this before. One of the spectators, a journalist with a notepad and camera, stepped forward cautiously. He'd been documenting the demonstration and couldn't resist asking the question on everyone's mind. "Mr. Lee," he said, his voice respectful but curious. "That was incredible. Truly. But I have to ask." He hesitated. "If Jack had been truly trying to hurt you, I mean, not just trying to pin you, but actually intending harm, would the outcome have been different?" The room went quiet again. All eyes turned to Bruce. Bruce's expression turned serious. His eyes darkened slightly, and when he spoke, his voice carried a weight that made everyone listen. "If someone truly wants to hurt me, they won't announce it. They won't charge like a bull. They won't shout in posture and make a scene." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the room. "They'll be silent, patient, precise. They'll wait for the right moment. And when that moment comes, they'll strike without hesitation." He glanced at Jack. "That's the difference between a fighter and a warrior." Jack looked up, his face a mixture of shame and curiosity. He'd never thought about it that way before. Bruce continued. "Jack fought like a fighter today, loud, aggressive, relying on intimidation. But a warrior doesn't need to prove anything. A warrior simply acts." Jack felt something shift inside him. Something deep. For the first time, he realized how little he actually knew. He cleared his throat, his voice rough.
So about that deal?
Bruce raised an eyebrow. You really want me to train under you? For a month, Bruce's expression softened, and a small smile returned to his face. If you're willing to learn. Jack hesitated. His pride screamed at him to walk away, to save face, to forget this ever happened. But something stronger, something new, told him to stay. He took a deep breath and nodded. I am. The room erupted into murmurs of surprise and respect. Bruce extended his hand again. This time, when Jack shook it, it wasn't just a handshake. It was a promise.
Come and respect if you believe real strength comes from learning, not winning. Oh, tell me, have you ever had a moment where someone changed your whole perspective? Drop your story below.
Years later, in a televised interview that would later become famous, Jack Harrison sat across from a seasoned sports journalist. His appearance had changed. He was older now, calmer. The arrogance that once defined him was gone, replaced by something quieter, something deeper. The journalist leaned forward, pen in hand. Jack, everyone remembers that day in 1972, the day you challenged Bruce Lee. People think he embarrassed you, humiliated you in front of everyone. Jack smiled, not bitterly, not defensively, but with genuine warmth. He shook his head slowly. People think Bruce embarrassed me. But the truth. He paused, his voice thick with emotion. He saved me. The journalist blinked, surprised. Saved you? How do you mean? Jack leaned back in his chair, his eyes distant, as if replaying that moment in his mind. Before that day, I thought I was untouchable. Invincible. I'd built my entire identity around being bigger, stronger, more intimidating than everyone else. He clenched his fist, then relaxed it. I was heading down a dangerous path, arrogance, violence, ego. I was hurting people, not just physically, but emotionally. I was becoming someone I didn't recognize when I looked in the mirror. His voice cracked slightly. I was becoming a monster. The journalist sat in silence, captivated. Jack continued. Bruce didn't just beat me that day. He didn't just prove I was wrong. He showed me there was another way. A better way. He looked directly into the camera. He showed me that real power isn't about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. Jack went on to become a martial arts instructor himself. Not a wrestling coach, not a fighter trainer, a teacher. Over the years, he taught hundreds of students, people from all walks of life, young, old, big, small, confident, broken. He taught them the same philosophy Bruce Lee had shown him. Be like water. One afternoon during a training session, one of his students, a teenage kid named Marcus, raised his hand. Coach, why do you always talk about Bruce Lee? The other students murmured in agreement. They'd all heard the story before, but they didn't fully understand why Jack kept bringing it up. Jack stopped mid-demonstration and smiled. He walked over to the edge of the mat and sat down, motioning for the students to gather around him. Let me tell you something, he said, his voice calm but firm. Bruce Lee taught me the most important lesson of my life. The students leaned in, and it wasn't about fighting. It wasn't about technique or speed or strength. He paused, letting the silence build. It was about this. It's not about being the strongest. It's about being the wisest. Marcus frowned. But coach, you were strong. You were a champion wrestler. Why wasn't that enough? Jack nodded thoughtfully. Because strength without wisdom is dangerous. It makes you arrogant. It makes you careless. It makes you think you don't need to grow. He looked each student in the eye. Bruce could have destroyed me that day. He could have broken my arm, humiliated me even more, made me a laughingstock. He smiled, but he didn't. Instead, he gave me the greatest gift anyone has ever given me. What gift? One of the students asked. A mirror? Jack said simply. He showed me who I really was. And then he gave me the tools to become someone better. The room was silent. Jack stood up, brushing off his pants. That's why I talk about him. Because his lesson didn't just change me, it saved me. And if it can save me, it can save anyone. In a rare recorded conversation from 1973, just months before his untimely death, Bruce Lee was asked about Jack Harrison. The interviewer, a philosophy professor, posed the question carefully. Bruce, there's a story going around about you and a wrestler named Jack Harrison. People say you embarrassed him publicly. Do you regret that? Bruce shook his head immediately, his expression serious. I didn't embarrass him. I gave him a mirror. The professor raised an eyebrow. A mirror, yes, Bruce said. I showed him what he was doing to himself, what his ego was costing him. He leaned forward slightly, his voice soft but intense. People think that day was about me proving something. It wasn't. It was about him learning something, And did he learn? Bruce's face softened into a rare, genuine smile. Yes, he chose growth. And that's the hardest choice a person can make. The professor nodded slowly, absorbing the words. So you don't see yourself as having defeated him? Bruce shook his head. No. I see myself as having opened a door. What he did with that opportunity, walking through it, doing the work, becoming a teacher himself, that was all him. He paused, his eyes thoughtful. That's the real victory. Not in the fight, but in what comes after. The professor scribbled notes furiously. So in your philosophy, the greatest achievement isn't dominance, it's transformation. Bruce smiled. Exactly. Type room.This if you believe everyone deserves a second chance. And tell me, have you ever been given a mirror? Moment that changed your life? Share your story below. This story isn't just about a fight. It's not about who is stronger or faster or more skilled. It's about what happens when ego meets wisdom, when arrogance meets humility, when someone thinks they're unbeatable, until they meet someone who doesn't need to prove it. Bruce Lee didn't need to humiliate Jack Harrison that day. He had every opportunity to do so. He could have hurt him, really hurt him. Broken bones, torn ligaments, made it so painful that Jack would never forget. He could have mocked him in front of everyone, turned him into a joke, destroyed his reputation with a single sentence. He could have made an example out of him. But instead, he gave him something far more valuable, a chance to become better, and Jack took it. That's the real power. Not in defeating your enemy, not in proving you're right, but in turning your enemy into your student, in planting a seed of transformation that grows long after the moment has passed. Bruce understood something most people never learn. Victory isn't about domination. It's about elevation. It's about lifting people up, even when they've tried to tear you down. Especially when they've tried to tear you down. Because that's when the lesson matters most. Too many people think strength is about dominance, about being the biggest, the loudest, the most intimidating person in the room. They think power comes from making others feel small, from crushing anyone who challenges them, from never backing down, never apologizing, never admitting they were wrong. But real strength is nothing like that. Real strength is in restraint. It's in knowing you could destroy someone and choosing not to. It's in teaching instead of punishing. It's in patience instead of rage. It's in lifting others up, especially when they don't deserve it. Bruce Lee understood that. He understood that the most powerful thing you can do isn't to defeat someone physically. It's to transform them spiritually. To take someone who was lost, broken, consumed by their own ego and show them a better path. And because Bruce chose that path, his legacy didn't die with him in 1973. It didn't fade away like so many other fighters and celebrities. It lives on. It lives on in every person who chooses wisdom over ego, growth over pride, respect over fear. It lives on in Jack Harrison, who became a teacher instead of a bully. It lives on in every one of Jack's students, who learned the same lesson. And it lives on in you, if you choose to carry it forward. Thank you so much for watching this story. If you made it all the way to the end, you're part of something special. You're part of a community that believes in respect, in transformation, in the power of humility. More incredible stories like this are coming soon. Stories of legendary figures who changed the world not through force, but through wisdom. Stories of people who turned enemies into allies. Stories of moments that seemed small but changed everything. But I need your help to make the next ones even better. Tell me in the comments. Where are you watching from? I want to see how far this message reaches across the world. What was your favorite part of this story? Was it the challenge? The fight? The transformation? Let me know. What lesson hit you the hardest? What moment made you stop and think? Your feedback means everything. It helps us understand what resonates with you, what moves you, what makes these stories worth telling. And if you have a story of your own, a moment when someone gave you a mirror, when someone showed you grace when you didn't deserve it, when you learned that real strength comes from within, share it below. Your story might inspire someone else. It might be exactly what someone needs to hear today. Type respite if you believe humility is the ultimate strength. Type room.This if you believe transformation is possible for everyone. Type legendi if Bruce Lee's philosophy still inspires you today. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you never miss the next one. Let's keep learning together. Let's keep growing together. Let's keep showing respect, not just to the people who deserve it, but to everyone, because that's what real strength looks like. See you in the next one. Stay humble. Stay strong. Stay legendary.